So how are you feeling, just in general? You recently went on a trip
Yeah, I
to
feel
Chicago.
good. I feel good.
So obviously, before I worked with you, you had what you would consider to be a fear of flying.
Yeah, definitely. I didn't fly without like anti-anxiety drugs, and it was very nerve-wracking, like days before and during.
And how long was that a problem for you?
As far back as I can remember, at least into my teens. I'm like almost 30 now, so like
Right.
at
So
least
pretty much
15 or 16 years.
so long enough that it's a problem that's been with you for a very long time. And
Hmm.
I think you mentioned when we worked together that was there any particular experience that you remember that may have caused the fear of flying for you, or was it just something that was
Not really. My mom was afraid of flying when I was younger, so I have a feeling that has had an effect. But
possibly, yeah, seeing that and picking up on that response from her?
yeah, I think that's probably like I had a few instances where we had some like scary flights, but like nothing
But was that already
that
after
was
you?
truly dangerous.
But was that already after you had your fear of flying? You had those experiences, or was that before? Would that have been before?
Mostly after, yeah, I guess
Right.
that's
So,
true.
so it just sort of feels like it was something that you experienced. You never necessarily knew where it may have come from. You may have picked up perhaps some of the fear from your mother, but just
Hmm.
something that was sort of there in the background for a while that you had to deal with.
Yeah, exactly.
And what were some of the symptoms that you would have experienced in the past with with fear of flying?
Um, sweating, shaking, like mushy brain.
Mushy brain. Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like, just not being able to think very clearly. Having to go to the bathroom a
Yep.
lot. Um, just like physiological signs of like anxiety and
Right.
distress,
There's
basically. Like crying, uh, inability to sleep.
and you're a person that
Uh,
you travel often enough, like at least once a
yeah,
year, or
I've always sort of said to myself that I won't let it stop me from going anywhere, and I
yeah.
try to fly, or I try to travel at least, like go to a new place, like at least once or twice a year.
So you
And then
still
I have
push yourself
family
through
in
the
the
experience.
States, so yeah, yeah, and the drugs help.
So you were taking
Yeah.
anti anxiety pills that you could just take
Yeah.
in the moment if you needed them.
Yeah, I take them like an hour before and they just sort of like take the edge off.
And with the symptoms building up, like when would that start? Was it just during the day of the flight, or was it days before? Like when would
It would usually like cluster around like booking the flight
so even up to
like
booking the actual
months
tickets?
before. Yeah, and then it would be like 1 or 2 days before the flight and then get worse and worse and worse until takeoff. And then after takeoff, it would just sort of level out. But it was like the pre-boarding and like waiting for takeoff was like the height.
So when you were, let's say, on vacation or visiting family or doing whatever you did wherever you were going, did your fear of flying sort of disrupt your experience being there at all? Like thinking about having to take a flight home, or
Yeah, definitely. Like it was definitely something that was like putting a damper on any trip I would go on because I knew when I would go that I would still have this great time and then have to like fly back and have
right?
like a day or two of like anxiety. So that could be really frustrating. But
So we worked together. We did a process without going into detail about what I actually did with you. How would you
hmm
explain your experience of of the process that I worked on with you?
it was just like pretty intense visualization, but like very relaxing, like relatively like quick
Hmm.
process, I would say.
When we were done working on the process together, what were your thoughts? Did you feel different?
Mm,
Thinking about that fear,
immediately I
or?
felt like relaxed, but I didn't honestly necessarily think like, oh, everything's great now, like 15 years of fear of flying gone.
Right, right, right.
Like,
Which
but
seems
I
pretty
was
reasonable.
flying, yeah, but I was flying the day after, so it was like a good experiment because,
So explain sort of what your experience, I guess, was. So you were flying out to Chicago,
yeah,
going for what, a three day trip,
yeah, just a little jaunt.
a little jaunt, and
Yeah.
explain what happened. What was your experience like?
So usually, like right up, like I'll try to not take my pills as long as I can stand it. And this time I just, like my body just wasn't having a reaction. Like I would just went to the airport and I felt calm and like everything just felt really normal, I guess.
Mm-hmm. What was that like?
And so it was really weird. It was as if I was like, what's wrong with me kind of thing, you
Right,
know?
right.
Like it just felt really weird. But you can't make your body react that way, and it just wasn't. So I
Mm-hmm.
just didn't take my pill, and then I
But
got a
but
little
you
bit
had them
nervous,
obviously.
like,
You had them obviously if you felt the need to take them at the same
yeah,
time, right?
yeah, yeah, I had them in my carry-on. So I just decided that I didn't need them. And are you there?
I'm
Sorry.
here. Yep. How was your So describe. So you got onto the plane and.
Yeah, so I got onto the plane, and like usually the pre-boarding is a little nerve-wracking, and we were a bit delayed, which
Yep.
usually makes it way worse because it's just anything that is out of the ordinary would just make me more nervous. But I just felt, even if I had a little bit of anxiety, it was totally, totally manageable. The only part that was like a little bit, I felt a little bit anxious was takeoff, but it was like completely manageable, like everyday anxiety.
I'm sure
Um,
I think most people, well, a lot of people, I would suggest feel. I think it's normal to feel maybe a bit of anxiety during takeoff or
yeah,
before. Yeah.
yeah. But it was like,
It's not an experience people, well, most people have every day. So
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, like it was just like, I just did some like deep breathing and it was fine. You know? And usually I would be like crawling out of my skin. If I hadn't taken my pill,
Right.
like I would be just a mess. So it was great. Like I was so happy when we landed and I was like, I can't believe I just flew without taking anything.
Awesome.
Like, like I was skeptical because we did visualization one time, but clearly something happened.
Right.
So,
So there's sort of a bit of almost like a cognitive dissonance. There's the sort of conscious part of you that's like, well, I don't know, something may seem a
totally.
little bit different, but I've you've probably felt maybe perhaps different before going to an airport and still had symptoms come up or whatever, but it's probably a very different
Exactly.
experience when your body's just not reacting, and then there's still the one part of you that's they're thinking, well, this is sort of weird. Why
Yeah.
is this so different, right?
Yeah, exactly. It was like, this is not how I should be feeling, but
Right.
then you're not feeling that way, so you can't, you know what I mean?
Yep. And
You can't
so
make yourself feel that way.
and then how was the flight back home?
It was similar. It was like totally fine.
And was there any anxiety leading up to the flight home at all, or any concern
Like,
that you might?
it was intellectual.
Yeah.
Like, it was an intellectual kind of anxiety where it was like, I should be feeling a little bit anxious here, like
So
thinking about
sort of
that,
looking for it
but
where it would usually be.
yeah, exactly, but way less the physiological signs of it,
Right. And
you
that will
know?
change, that will continue to change over time, because obviously when you're so used, there's a pattern there still that involves looking
Exactly.
for that to be there, because that was part of the
Exactly.
process.
Exactly.
So that's
Yeah,
going to come with
exactly.
time and
Yeah.
collecting
Like
the
once my
experiences of
brain
responding
knows
differently.
that my body, yeah, once my brain knows that my body is okay,
Yeah.
then it'll all be in harmony. But yeah, it was like really nice to to just be like, oh my God, like I can just get on a plane and it's okay.
Great.
It doesn't have to be this like whole ordeal.
So how do you feel thinking about the future and all the trips that you
Yeah,
want to take or have to take out of necessity?
I remember I said as soon as we landed, I was just like, I want to go everywhere now. Like, when's our next
Well,
trip?
it must be such a dichotomy when there's a part of you that obviously enjoys traveling or visiting family and friends and stuff like that, but then there's another part of you that gets anxious and you have to go through that. I mean, the fact that you all these years you've pushed yourself through that negative experience is sort of a testament to the fact that you're going to travel no matter what, regardless of
Yeah,
what
with
you
the help of the
feel. But
pharmaceutical companies.
sorry.
Yeah, with the help of pharmaceuticals.
Right.
It's not just me.
Great. So, the last question I would have for you is: would you recommend this process that I worked with you on with other people for other
Yes,
people?
yes, 100%. Yes, like I had a phobia for like 15 years and now it's left my body. I don't know how, but obviously, yes, I recommend it highly because I feel like so like a huge weight has been lifted. I feel like free to travel, free to go where I want to, where I need to go without having so much fear and anxiety around it, and that's like a life-changing thing. So